Today we're going to be discussing some imbalances that occur in the muscular system. We're not going to discuss a whole lot of them. As you can see here for this year, I've crossed out a few here. We're just going to learn the basics of muscular dystrophy and then some others that you may encounter sometime in the future. So the first disease is called muscular dystrophy. This is a group of inherited diseases. It affects different types. There's different kinds of it. And what it does is it destroys the ability to make good proteins to maintain good muscle health. So as the disease progresses, the muscles become progressively weak and they degenerate and atrophy. As you can see here, here's two girls in their wheelchairs who have muscular dystrophy. This girl here doesn't appear to have quite as much atrophy of her muscles as this young lady here does. The muscles become so weak that they're not able to walk and hold up their own body. The next imbalance we're going to discuss is called a strain. A strain is the stretching or tearing of a muscle or a tendon. Recall in the last unit when we discussed imbalances of the skeletal system, we discussed sprains with S-P-R-A-I-N, which was a tear or a stretching of a ligament. And we learned that it's much harder for that to heal because there's not as much vascularity taken care of and helping it to heal as there are with muscles and tendons. Although this can be very painful and still will take time to heal. If the tear is so bad, the muscle will actually have to be sutured back together. You can see here's a picture. You could see ligament torn, that is the S-P-R-A-I-N, and the strains has to do with tendons and muscles, where you have stretching or actual tearing happening in the tendon and or the muscle itself. Related to that is tendinitis. Itis always means inflammation. This is inflammation or irritation of a tendon, usually because you're chronically overusing it, leading to microscopic tears in the matrix of the tendon. This weakens the tissue, can cause an awful lot of pain and swelling outside of that joint. And you can see here when you have tendinitis, you could take anti-inflammatories such as NSAIDs, such as ibuprofens. You could ice it, you can brace it and isolate it so it can't move just to give it a rest. In this case, if you had problems with your wrist, you could do some hand therapy. I've actually done this. If it gets too bad, you can get cortisone shots, will decrease the inflammation, and if it's severe enough, you may need surgery. The next is a spasm, and often spasm and cramps get kind of used interchangeably. The spasm is a sudden involuntary contraction of a single muscle, A cramp is sustained muscle spasm, a sustained muscle spasm. So spasm is where you have a sudden, involuntary, you're not doing it on purpose, contraction of a single muscle. The cramp is also sudden, involuntary contraction of one or more muscles, and this is sustained. Often it's from overuse of a muscle. Dehydration is the biggie. That's usually what happens. And then you also have electrolytic imbalance. You need to stretch before and after exercise and drink plenty of water. And I'll show you here this guy right after his workout, his whole entire gastrocnemius is starting to spasm, but it's sustained, as you'll see. Therefore, it's called a cramp.
This is what a cramp looks like. Look. Oh my God. I won't stop. I'm not doing anything.
You can hear the pain in his voice. And this goes on for another good 30 seconds or so before it finally starts to relax. And then it's going to hurt an awful lot after that. The next imbalance is going to be a twitch, often called a fasciculation, but we're going to learn it as a twitch. This is brief, spontaneous contraction also, but it's just a small number of muscle fibers, not the entire muscle itself, often causing a flickering movement under the skin. It can be, as you can see, lack of sleep, anxiety, stretch, too much caffeine. And I have a video here of a girl whose eyelid is twitching, and you can see it's going to be right up in here. There it is. It's right under the skin. That's a twitch. A tic. This type of twitching is made by involuntary muscles that are usually under voluntary control. Once again, it's sudden. It's not done on purpose, and this happens repeatedly. This happens repeatedly. I have some. I have a fella here who's talking about different types of tics that someone with Tourette's syndrome might have, and they'll show you a few of them.
Motor tics, blinking, winking, raising the eyebrows. That would be a simple tic. A complex motor tic will be something like skipping, bending one's knees, extending one's arms, and flexing it. When we talk about phonic tics are utterances that can be, again, simple or complex. A simple utterance like snorting or clearing one's throat or yelping. These would be described as simple phonic tics.
So these, once again, are something that occurs repeatedly. Moving on to a tremor. A tremor is rhythmic, and these are all involuntary, so you're not doing it purposefully, but a rhythmic involuntary contraction that produces a quivering or shaking movement, and this usually happens in the hand. And you can see here, you're going to see the hand shaking, and then they're going to cut and go to a different person who has their hand shaking as well. So that is a tremor. There are different neuromuscular diseases, such as Parkinson's disease, that elicits itself with a tremor. Myalgia is a term for pain in a muscle. Algia is pain, myo or mis. Remember our prefixes for muscle, so myalgia is pain in a muscle. Fibromyalgia is a disorder characterized by widespread musculoskeletal pain. This pain is in the muscles, the ligaments, the tendons, and being under such strain of pain, I can't imagine how challenging it would be to even sleep, let alone to function all day long. Often they have chronic fatigue. They have problems with their sleeping. They have memory and mood issues. It's quite debilitating for someone who is diagnosed with fibromyalgia. And so that is it. That's it for our muscular system imbalances that you'll be responsible for on our test this week.